Today we will see the concept of workmen compensation reserve. We all know that this reserve is created out of profits to meet the claim for compensation by workers. बिझनेसेसमध्ये वर्कर्सना कॉम्पेन्सेशन द्यावं लागतं काही वेळेला. ते पूर्ण करण्यासाठी हा रिझर्व क्रिएट केलेला असतो. There are 4 conditions in this reserve in dissolution of partnership firm. The first case, when there is no liability against workmen compensation reserve. It means workmen compensation reserve will be given in the balance sheet, but there will not be any claim of workers. In this case, we have to distribute the workmen compensation reserve between all the partners in their profit sharing ratio. This is the first case. Now the second case. In second case, the amount of liability is less than the amount of workmen compensation reserve. One example is given here. See the example. If the workmen compensation reserve is 20,000 and liability for claim is rupees 8,000, then workmen compensation reserve will be given in the balance sheet, and in adjustments they will tell us that liability for claim is less than that reserve. Okay, then in second case we have to transfer workmen compensation reserve to the extent of liability to realization account, and remaining reserve will be distributed between the partners in their profit sharing ratio. So you can pass 2 separate entries for this. First entry will be workmen compensation reserve account debit to realization account 8,000. That is the amount of liability transferred to realization account. And then remaining reserve, in this example remaining reserve is rupees 12,000. It will be distributed between the partners in their profit sharing ratio. Okay. Now the third case. In this case, the amount of liability is equal to the amount of workmen compensation reserve. Here, all the workmen compensation reserve will be transferred to realization account, and the entry will be workmen compensation reserve account debit to realization account. And then we will pay the compensation. For payment of compensation, the entry will be realization account debit to bank account. Narration will be being the payment of liability of workmen compensation, or being the liability of workmen compensation paid. Okay, this will be the third case. And the last case, that is fourth. In this case, the amount of liability of workmen compensation is more than the amount of workmen compensation reserve. Here, workmen compensation reserve will be fully transferred to realization account. Here the example is given. The compensation reserve is 20,000 and liability for claim is rupees 25,000. Then we will transfer all the reserve to realization account. So this entry is passed, and then the liability will be paid, and the entry of payment will be realization account debit to bank account rupees 25,000 in this example. Okay. Now we will see the problem of workmen compensation reserve.